Okay, people, you're going to have to bear with me. Dougie McSween was supposed to type this up for me, but he said he's retired and he doesn't do that stuff anymore, right? But anyway, for those of us who grew up to be avid sportsbound in Waterford in the late 50s and 60s, we didn't realize it then how very spoiled we were and what a special time that was. Numerous high school boys and girls provincial championships in soccer and basketball by teams from Central, St. Agnes, and Mount Carmel during the fall and winter months, along with numerous Nova Scotia and Maritime basketball championships led by the legendary New Waterford Strands, highlighted the greatest era of sports in our town. But it was the boys of summer that stood above them all. It was the star-laden New Waterford Giants senior baseball team that owns the bragging rights of the greatest sports team in the history of our town, in my opinion. The Giants dominated senior ball from 1959 to 1966, which included 2 Maritime championships. Over the past 5 years, the New Waterford District Sports Hall of Fame has honored many of the players on this team. And tonight we come full circle as 6 more players, great players, will join Mike Roberts, Carl Marsh, Bozo Steele, and George Hughes as the elite of the elite of that magical time in the Waterford sports history. And I'm sure if you asked each and every player on that team, who's the most important player on those teams, the answer would be Jimmy Nemis. Also known as the Rambler, also known as the Roadrunner, or as local sports guru Pius Young once labeled him, the fastest set of legs in town. Jimmy Nemis was a complete ball player. He could hit, he could run, he could do it all, and considered by many as the greatest center fielder in the history of the Cape Breton Senior Baseball League. If a baseball was hit anywhere in the vicinity of center field, only 2 things could possibly happen. Jimmy would run it down, or it would be a home run. In his younger years, Jimmy was an all-around athlete, but it didn't take long for baseball to become his #1 priority. Jimmy played midget and juvenile from 1952 to 1955 before moving on to junior in 1956 at the age of 19. In 1957, during the junior finals between Mount Carmel and Reserve, Jimmy's speed once again came into play in a big way. In the 6th game of the best-of-7 final, after overcoming a 7-run deficit, Coach Kenny Timmons called on Jimmy to steal home, which he did to tie the game, and Mount Carmel eventually went on to win the game and the Cape Breton title before going on to beat Halifax for the Nova Scotia title. The Waterford team would later lose to Edmundston in the Maritime Championships. In 1958 was Jimmy's first year in senior ball, joining the Waterford Giants, where he led the league with 30 stolen bases and 44 runs scored, which was big time then, despite losing the Cape Breton title to the Sydney Mines Ramblers. In 1959, it was a bittersweet year for Jimmy Nemis. He was building his new home that year and was unable to play. And as bad luck would have it, the Giants would win the Maritime title that year. Over the next 5 years, Jimmy helped the Giants win 3 Cape Breton championships in the highly competitive Cape Breton Senior League. In 1965, Jimmy Nemis finally became the champion he truly is, as the Giants beat Moncton 2-0 to win their second Maritime Championship in 6 years. Jimmy would tell me that 1966 was a bad year for baseball, as the league folded, marking the end of senior baseball in New Waterford. The Giants beat Sydney that year to win another Cape Breton championship, but lost to Halifax in the provincial final, where Jimmy suffered a broken wrist and was lost for the playoffs. In 1967, Sydney entered an all-star team where Jimmy, Mike Roberts, and Stan Exall were asked to join the team. They lost the hand sport in the final, and senior baseball in Cape Breton came to an end. Jimmy then went on to play fastball with the legendary Scotchtown Raiders, teaming up with another speedster, Reggie Leadbeater, forming the best outfield tandem in softball fastball history on our island. When I spoke to Jimmy, he noted in those days the Brooklyn Dodgers had the best double play combination in Major League Baseball in Pee Wee Reese and Junior Gilliam. but we had Mike Roberts and Carl Mars, who were just as good. Jimmy also talked an hour about one of the greatest pitchers at that time, teammate Spike McKinnon. Jimmy said out in center field, he had a bird's eye view of everything Spikey threw. Fastballs, in-shoots, out-shoots, knuckleballs, and everything but the kitchen sink. And gave credit to catcher Hot Dog McLean for doing a masterful job of catching him. Last but not least, Jimmy later became coordinator of the 18 Kinsman Bantam League. In 1971, an all-star team was picked, and that team is none other than the Kinsman Bantam Rovers, who won the Eastern Canadian Championship that year and are being honored later tonight. Okay, one last thing. When I look around the room, I see the families of Jimmy Nemis, Dan Willey, and Spikey McKinnon, Hot Dog McLean, Stan Exall, and Mikey Walsack, and I see they're a lot like me. My dad, Marshall Laveau, was one of the first inductees of this Hall of Fame. We heard the stories and the accolades, but I too never got a chance to see him play. Saw him umpire a lot of games, but was too young to remember him playing. Just like my own kids who never got a chance to see me play darts at the Cavalier Garden. And just like Dougie McSween and Ambrose White's kids who never saw them play with the Value Center Hawks. Anyway, you guys will never know what an impact you had in the lives of so many of us here tonight. And you were every much heroes to us 9 and 10-year-olds at that time in New Waterford, as Willie Mays was in San Francisco, Mickey Mantle was in New York, and Sandy Koufax was in LA. And Jimmy, Mike, Carl Mars, Bozo Steele, Spikey McKinnon, Stan Exall, Bucky Walsack, Hot Dog McLean, and even Dan Willey. Anyway, I'm mixed up here. Having said all that, on behalf of the New Waterford and District Sports Hall of Fame, it's an honor and privilege for me to announce the newest inductee to our Hall of Fame, Jimmy the Rambler Nemis.
Good job.
I didn't know I had to make a speech tonight. I just wish I had the legs I had 60 years ago. But anyway, I'd like to thank the committee for picking me here tonight. So I think there was enough said tonight, so I'm making it short and sweet. Thank you.